Week 3 main slate, I'm excited. Hope you guys have had a good NFL season so far. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. My name is DK. I'll be breaking down, again, the 13-game main slate for Sunday. Do make content for Draftkings and for Prize Picks. If you guys are looking for that more in-depth content, you can check out my Patreon linked down below. We had a member take down the Showdown slate, went over $53,000 last night, so hoping to keep that going here for Sunday. So yeah, that was great to see. And the sponsor for today's video, guys, is Prize Picks. You can use my code DKDFS for a 100% match up to $100. Prize Picks is a player prop site where a ton of different ways you can play. You can take over under and rushing yards, passing yards, receiving yards. They'll add fantasy points later in the week. Targets, touchdowns, just a ton of different ways. So if you guys are a new user, you can use that code, 100% match up to $100. All right, but let's get into this video. The recap of the main slate for week 2. Well, ended my day pretty early when Trey Lance got injured. So again, unfortunate, but hey, what can you do? So let's talk about this slate. Again, 13 games, and we'll go team by team once again, since that's what you guys have been preferring. So we'll start off with Baltimore and New England. And quarterback Lamar Jackson, obviously that game was insane, the Baltimore-Miami game. Went for almost 50 fantasy points last game. Rushing upside, I mean, good play in both formats if you have the salary. Yeah, Lamar looks good. Running back is disgusting. They had a three-headed monster. After week 1, Drake was kind of the clear guy. Week 2, it was a very even split with Justice Hill, Kenyon Drake, Mike Davis. Yuck. I want to throw up that three-headed monster. Dobbins, we'll see if he plays. We'll see if he's going to be limited or not. If he misses, expect more of the same for that disgusting three-headed group. At wide receiver, wide receiver, the snaps have not been great for Baltimore. 35 out of the 58 snaps there for Bateman. 31 for Duvernay, got a bit banged up. 23 for Demarcus Robinson. So Baltimore, we know, more of a run-first team, but you did see some big plays here for the Ravens wide receivers. I'll probably be fading these guys. Don't love the price points. Don't love the spot either. Tight end, Mark Andrews, I'm totally fine with at 6'9". Should get around double-digit targets. High floor, high ceiling play. Isaiah Likely, Josh Oliver, and mixing in is the tight end too. If you wanted to take a dart throw one of those guys in a large field tournament, you could. Probably Likely being the guy that you would want to look to if you wanted to get really different. New England, I'm not going to Mac Jones. Running backs is a split between Harris and Stevenson, but with Ty Montgomery out, you did see Ramondre Stevenson kind of take over that passing down role. He played 42 of the 68 snaps and ran a route in 23, with Pierre Strong only playing 3 snaps. So that's good to see for Ramondre Stevenson. If I had to pick someone as backfield, it would be him. I'm not convinced it's going to continue to be that way where he's the passing down running back, but we will obviously monitor that. A wide receiver, we have Myers, Aguilar, Parker. Myers would be the guy I would look to. $5K, not super expensive. And he played 56 of the 68 snaps, almost had double-digit targets. So I think he looks pretty good. You saw a relatively big game from Nelson Aguilar, 6 catches over 100 yards, but I think more of an outlier game there for him. Tight end, we're going to be split between Henry and Smith. No interest there. Kansas City, Mahomes, 7'9". I think is a good tournament play, as he always is. Not really a cash game play, though, for me. Running back, 3 guys played, CH, McKinnon, and Pacheco, but CH and McKinnon basically was even split. I'll expect more touches for CEH. Again, you can use him in tournaments. He's gotten a bit lucky, though, with production, in my opinion. If I was going to play Chiefs back in GBPs, I would rather take the shot on McKinnon at 4.5K, who, again, saw like the same amount of touches as CEH. A wide receiver, so Juju had a really bad game after a solid week 1, but still played a decent chunk of the game. If you take a look at snap counts here for Kansas City, you saw 42 of the 57 snaps there for Juju, 45 for MVS, and you saw 31 for Hardman, who got a bit banged up, and then Justin Watson saw 14 snaps and caught a touchdown. So of the Chiefs wide receivers, again, Juju probably still your safest bet. A Hardman, if he plays, like his ceiling in tournaments. If Hardman misses, then you can look to Justin Watson, assuming he plays. If they both miss, then maybe you can finally look to Sky Moore, all you best ball bros. At tight end, Travis Kelce, 7.9K. Good play in both formats. Safe. Again, just like Mark Andrews, high floor, high ceiling, like Travis Kelce, as always. Colts, no, I'm not playing Matt Ryan at running back. The Colts flat out lied about Nyheim Hines having a much bigger role. No, you lied. Stop lying, coaches. All right? Stop it. Really, really grinds my gears. 15 of the 50 snaps from Nyheim Hines in a game that they were playing from behind. Like, just don't lie. Just don't tell us you're going to get Nyheim Hines way more involved. Don't do that. It's like the Bucs, who lied about limiting Fournette's role, right? Lies. All right, but yeah, Jonathan Taylor, 9K, going up against the Chiefs. You would think they'd be playing from behind, which does make him risky, right? They fell behind big time against the Jags, and you saw him kind of get phased out a bit, only 10 touches. But if you think the Colts can keep this game competitive or even play from ahead, you can definitely look to Jonathan Taylor. I'm not playing Nyheim Hines at 5K. Wide receiver, can we talk about the fact that Paris Campbell played the entire game and didn't have a catch? We just talk about that? All right? I played Paris Campbell. Played the entire game. They were trailing. No catches. How? I'm praying Michael Pittman can come back so I don't have to deal with these cheap Colts wide receivers. All right? So I really hope he plays. If they both missed, I mean, Doolin, Campbell, and Strachan were the top 3 wide receivers as far as snap counts go. You saw Campbell play 43 of the 50 snaps, going to basically play the entire game. 32 of the 50 for Doolin, who was much better. And then Strachan played 35 of the 50 snaps. So those guys would be viable punt plays. I don't trust any of them, though. Tight end, Granson got some ownership for some reason. I didn't really get that. He split snaps and Mo like Cox. Not really looking to either of those guys. Moving on to New Orleans and Carolina. Not really looking to Jameis Winston at running back. We'll keep an eye on Kamara. If he misses, you'll see Tony Jones and Mark Ingram split touches. Don't really know if I'd look to either. If Kamara plays, he's fine in tournaments. Wide receiver, so Thomas, Landry, Olave, all played a decent amount. Olave had a big game last week, going for 5 catches on 13 targets. Michael Thomas still, though, the safest option, in my opinion. 8-9 targets over the first couple of weeks, so he is the guy I like the best. And at tight end, there is a guy I think is playable in both formats here, and that's because the snap counts have been really, really good at him over the first couple of weeks. That's Juwan Johnson, 53 of the 68 snaps. I know New Orleans is still going to utilize a few tight ends, Troutman, Taysom Hill will come in at times, but he's 2.9K. And 5 and 7 targets over the first couple of weeks. If he's going to continue to play the amount of snaps he's playing, I think he's a good value play. I think he'll be a play that will be popular in cash games. So, yeah, I like Juwan Johnson there. Carolina, no, I'm not looking to Baker Mayfield. CMC, totally fine in both formats. Played basically the entire game. He hasn't had a CMC game yet this year, but played 53 of the 58 snaps, is involved in the passing game. The only issue is this game not projected to be super high scoring of the Saints and Panthers, but still like CMC in both formats. Wide receiver, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson still played the entire game. I would lean more over Anderson, I should say, if I had to pick. And then Shi Smith's been the slot wide receiver. He hasn't had the production, but the snaps have been there. He's the flat min price, 41 of the 58 snaps. If you wanted a large field tournament play, you can look to him. I'm not playing Ian Thomas. Yuck. Houston, no, I'm not looking to Davis Mills. Running back was a different story this week. We saw Dameon Pierce outsnap Rex Burkhead, which week 1, surprisingly, Burkhead outsnapped Pierce. But yeah, 39 of the 62 snaps for Pierce, 22 of the 62 for Burkhead. So the rookie did outsnap him. He's a fine play at 5K. Wide receiver, so Cooks is always in play. I mean, this game, Chicago's offense not great. Houston's offense not great. So another kind of ugly game, but Cooks, always a guy you can look to in either format. The cheap wide receivers, Collins hasn't done a ton. The snaps have been there. Chris Moore has been the slot wide receiver. Again, he played still a decent chunk. He played 40 to 62 snaps. So again, another large field tournament play there. Tight ends, they're mixing in 3 guys. I don't really want to mess with it unless, maybe Brevin Jordan, if he can't play, then maybe you can start to consider a guy like Pharaoh Brown or OJ Howard. But yeah, not going to feel good about that. Quarterback, Justin Fields. I'll just mention him as a low-owned quarterback play to try to buy low. They're just not passing the ball. How are you passing the ball 11 times in that game where they were down big against Green Bay? Someone make it make sense, right? They were just grounding and pounding David Montgomery down 3 scores in the fourth quarter. Throw the ball. So, yeah, Fields, I do think is a little bit interesting as a low-owned quarterback play. Running back Montgomery, I think, is in a solid play in both formats. He did play a decent chunk more this game as opposed to Khalil Herbert. 33 of the 41 snaps. A guy that, is involved in the passing game as well. And a sub 6K. I think it's a solid play in both formats. Wide receiver, none of the wide receivers have done anything because they're not throwing the ball. So Darnell Mooney, again, interesting buy low opportunity here in tournaments. If you think the Bears are going to start throwing the ball a bit more. Tight end, same thing I'll say of Cole Kmet, right? 2 targets over the first couple weeks, no catches. Wild stuff here for the Bears. Buffalo and Miami, I like Josh Allen and GPPs, 8.2K. The Bills literally don't run the ball. They just throw the ball. It doesn't matter if they're leading by 4 scores. They're still going to throw the ball. So Allen looks good. I do have a little bit of interest in Devin Singletary, 5.6. Now the snaps, I don't read too much into. He played a lot in the first 2.5 quarters, and the game was within reach, I guess. Overall, finished with 37 to 68 snaps, but didn't touch the field in the fourth quarter. So of the 3 backs, Singletary has kind of established himself as the clear guy. Now, he's still not going to be a bell cow back, but in tournaments, I think he's in play. Wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, obviously went massive last game. 12 catches on 14 targets and 3 touchdowns. If Gabe Davis is once again out, Stephon Diggs, good play in both formats. And then with Gabe Davis being out, we talked about this, right? Jake Kumerow, I was like, I think there's a good chance Jake Kumerow's a wide receiver too. There's no talk of him, no talk of Jake Kumerow by any of. I didn't see any content about Jake Kumerow, and he ended up leading the team wide receiver snaps. Had a couple catches for 50 yards, and could have done better to the game would have stayed competitive. So if Gabe Davis is out, you can load to a min-price Jake Kumerow, who basically played the entire game. McKenzie and Crowder did not really see a massive snap increase. If I had to pick one, it would be McKenzie. At tight end, I think Dawson Knox is a good play in both formats just because he's rarely going to leave the field, and he's, again, has Josh Allen as his quarterback. Miami, you saw what Tua did last game. I'm not really looking to buy into him, especially after that big game, but that game was insane. It was literally insane. Edmonds and Mostert split the touches here. That's not great after week 1, Edmonds being the clear guy, so not amazing there. Hill and Waddle, again, I don't want to tell you what they did last week. They both absolutely smashed. 7.6 for Hill, 6.8 for Waddle, both in play. Tight end, Mike Gesicki, 4.3K. He played 44 of the 71 snaps. I think there's other, I would just rather go to, there's other tight ends in this range that are basically playing the entire game, so would just rather go there. Detroit and Minnesota, this game, a little bit intriguing here. Should be high scoring. Jared Goff's 5'8". If you needed a complete punt play quarterback, I guess you could do worse. Running back, they did kind of limit DeAndre Swift, but we knew that going in. Took his under in prize picks. That worked out. I had to sweat it, though, because he scored a touchdown. He scored, I think he had 16 fantasy points and 8 touches. He had 2 catches and, 7 touches, and he had 16 fantasy points. I had to sweat that. I took his under 18.5. I would have been so mad if he hit that over. But, yeah, Swift, we'll keep an eye on the news. If we get news that he's full go, then I think he's a solid tournament play. But you're still going to get Jamal Williams mixed in. So, it's not like Swift is a bell cow. Wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a stud. This guy is amazing. The price has come up, but he's just going to get peppered with targets. Doesn't matter that Swift and Hawkinson are healthy too, right? That was the worry that a lot of people talked about. But, yeah, St. Brown, I think, is still in play at this price point in both formats just because the high floor, high ceiling. I don't really know if I'm looking at any of the other Lions wide receivers, though. Probably would pass there. Hawkinson at 4.2, a guy that's going to play majority of the game, 7 targets back-to-back weeks. I think he's a solid option here. He played 54 and 61 snaps. So, yeah, Hawkinson, one of those cheaper tight ends I like. Minnesota, Kirk Cousins. He's not playing on prime time, so maybe he can have a decent game. But 6.7, no thank you. Running back, Dalvin Cook at 7.9K. He's still their clear RB1. Still going to play probably 70-80% of snaps in a game that should be high scoring. He is involved in the passing game. I'm fine with him in both formats. Wide receiver, you're basically just have 3 guys play the entire game with Jefferson, Thielen, and Osborne. Jefferson, I don't have to tell you the talent this guy has. He's obviously a solid tournament play. Thielen, I think, is your safest bet at 5.9K, and then KJ Osborne will work out of the slot. At tight end, you did see Irv Smith play a lot more. The answer is no, I'm not tilted whatsoever. When I played him in week 1 at low ownership, doesn't play. Next week, absolute smash. No, not tilted at all. Just very, very happy for Irv Smith. But yeah, he's in play for tournaments. Moving on to the back half of these games. Cincinnati and the Jets. Joe Burrow, 6'6". Just rather go to other quarterbacks in that range. Running back, I do like Joe Mixon at 7'6". Cincinnati's one of those teams that are just going to play like their starters and play them like the entire game. Is involved in the passing game. It's the Jets. Decent matchup. I think he's a solid play in both formats. Wide receiver, we have Chase Higgins. Boyd will play like the entire game. I think Higgins is my favorite point per dollar play. 6.1K. You're getting him at almost $2,000. You are. It is a $2,000 gap between him and Chase. Would rather go to Higgins there, but obviously we know the ceiling that Jamar Chase has. And at tight end, Hayden Hurst is another one of those tight ends I like because he's playing, cheap tight ends that's playing majority of the game and has been getting targets. So if you take a look at last week, he played 56 of the 69 snaps and had 7 targets. I think makes him a solid option. The Jets, Joe Flacco, went for 30 fantasy points last game. I'm not looking at that, but I'm not looking to pump Joe Flacco, but the Jets are basically playing from behind like the entire season, so that's positive. Running back, we saw 3 running backs play. I'm not really looking to mess with the Jets running backs. Wide receiver, Garrett Wilson has played very well over the first couple of weeks, and it's not like he's been seeing a crazy amount of snaps either. So he saw 43 of the 71 snaps. You saw Elijah Moore play 61 and Corey Davis 55. So, I know we've seen 8 and 14 targets over the first couple of weeks for Garrett Wilson, but I don't know if he's going to continue that level of production with the limited snaps he's been seeing. I think my favorite wide receiver would probably still be Elijah Moore here at 5K. At tight end, if Uzomah can't go, Tyler Conklin. There's a lot of in the 3.5 to 4.5 range, there's a large group of tight ends that I think all look very similar and are all pretty safe plays. 7 to 9 targets for Conklin here. I think he looks pretty good, again, assuming Uzomah doesn't play. Raiders and Titans, Derek Carr, 5'9". Indifferent on him. Josh Jacobs at 5'4". The price is relatively cheap. If you think the Raiders are playing from ahead, I think he's in play here. Not super involved in the passing game. Abdullah was the pass catcher last week, but is their clear, guy on early down situations, and again, is relatively cheap. At wide receiver, Devontae Adams had a letdown game last game. Not super worried about it. Still had 7 targets. We know the ceiling he brings. Renfro, if he plays, is fine. If he misses, I would guess that Keelan Cole takes over as a slot wide receiver. Ty Johnson, more of a out wide receiver. So I would think that Keelan Cole will be the slot guy if Hunter Renfro doesn't play. And then Mac Hollins, played a majority of the game again, and it did have 8 targets this time, 3.3K. I think he's fine. I don't know if we can expect that level of production again from him, but again, we did see 58 of the 67 snaps there from Mac Hollins. Tennessee, no, I'm not playing Tannehill. Derrick Henry is in play if you think the Titans are already been playing from ahead. But as I mentioned, my concerns on the Monday night game, if they fell behind, they phased him out. They did phase him out. Wide receiver, they're really spreading out the snaps here with 4 or 5 guys. Burks has been the most productive wide receiver through the first couple of weeks. He would be the guy I would take the shot on. Philadelphia and Washington. Jalen Hurts, I like in both formats. Rushing upside. Washington, not a great defense. I think Hurts looks really good here. Running back, Sanders is fine, but they're still playing 3 running backs, which I don't like. You saw 39 of the 73 snaps there for Sanders, 15 for Scott, 19 for Gainwell. So, yeah, Sanders is fine in tournaments. Wide receiver, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, 7-3 and 5-2. Told you guys I like Smith to bounce back. He did in a pretty big way. I think he looks a little bit better point per dollar than A.J. Brown. And Quez Watkins caught the touchdown, but kind of feels like a chase if you go there. At tight end, I do like Dallas Goedert, right? He's in that range of guys that's, going to play the entire game, should get a good amount of targets. I think he looks pretty good. Washington, not really looking to Carson Wentz at 6'3". Running back, you saw a pretty even split there with Gibson and McKissick. Gibson going to be the early down guy. McKissick more the pass catcher. Wide receiver, McLaurin, Samuel, Dotson, they're basically playing the entire game, these 3 wide receivers. That's good to see. So all 3 are relatively safe for that reason. McLaurin's still the guy at the highest ceiling. Curtis Samuel has been the most productive wide receiver for the first couple of weeks. I think he'll be a bit over-owned. He's also caught a touchdown in the first couple of weeks. I'm not convinced we're going to see 10 targets from Curtis Samuel every single week, and he's going to catch a touchdown every single week. So for me in tournaments, I'd rather go to McLaurin or Dotson. I'll let others chase Curtis Samuel. I'm not saying he's a bad play. I think he's fine, and if you wanted to play him in cash games too, because he's getting a lot of targets. But in tournaments, I think I'd rather go to one of those other Washington wide receivers. Jags, Chargers, tough matchup here for the Jags. Lawrence I'll probably pass on. Robinson and Etienne are splitting duties. I'm not looking there. Wide receiver, Kirk has been very productive over the first couple of weeks. 6'2", I think he's in play. If you needed a punt play, Marvin Jones Jr., Zay Jones are fine. And at tight end, Evan Ingram, fine play at 3.7, still running a lot of routes. Again, there's just a lot of tight ends in that range that are in play. For the Chargers, keep on Herbert news. If Herbert plays, this Chargers offense obviously is going to look a lot better. If we have Chase Daniel running the show, not as much. So that's very, very important. Running back, Eckler, fine in tournaments, but only playing about 50% of the snaps. Don't really know if I looked him in a cash game setting. Wide receiver, keep an eye on Keenan Allen news also. If he misses, we saw what Mike Williams did. Mike Williams did a really good tournament play. We also saw Josh Palmer play a majority of the game, had 8 targets. I would like Palmer quite a bit if Keenan Allen doesn't play. And if Justin Herbert is the quarterback, we saw 68 of the 75 snaps there for Josh Palmer. So, yeah, definitely monitor Keenan Allen as well as Justin Herbert news. And then a tight end, Everett 4-4. I think he's fine at 10 targets last week. Again, still should play majority of the game. Green Bay, Tampa Bay. Aaron Rodgers, 6'4". Running back, you're going to see a split between Jones and Dillon. I'll let others chase the Aaron Jones game. I'm not over that on the showdown. I'm still on full tilt mode. I think A.J. Dillon looks a little bit better point per dollar than Aaron Jones, but both in play for GPPs. Wide receiver, I really don't trust anything here. Lazard played the most, but they really spread out the snaps, which I thought they would. You saw Lazard play 55 of the 68 snaps, but outside of that, it was spread out. Watkins played the next most. He played 44 of the 68. You saw 25 for Dobbs, 20 for Cobb, 22 for Watson. Nothing really standing out there. Tight end, they played 4 guys and also spread it out. Tonyan only played 27 of the 68 snaps. There's not much here that I like. For Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, 6K. For the last couple of years, I got him as really last year, where I just been really looking to spend up more at quarterback. Early on in NFL DFS, in like the early days, 2013, 2014, you usually look to punt quarterback. But last couple of years, I've been looking to spend up almost every single week at quarterbacks. Just spend up quarterbacks have just such a higher ceiling than some of these cheap quarterbacks. So I'm not really looking at Tom Brady. At running back, however, I do like Fournette. Again, the Bucs flat out lied about limiting his workload, getting Rashad White more involved. No. Fournette's just been the bell cow back. Played 58 of the 67 snaps, is involved in the passing game. I think he looks like a very good play in both formats. At wide receiver, we got to keep an eye on what's going to happen here. Mike Evans is suspended. We don't know about Godwin or Julio Jones. Gage will probably play at the slot. We have also Brashard Perriman, Scotty Miller. They also signed Cole Beasley. So, who knows what's going to happen here? Perriman, probably your safest bet at 3.9K. Played 50 of the 67 snaps. Gage played 44 in the slot there. Scotty Miller played 29, played a lot when Mike Evans went down. So, again, we'll keep an eye on news here for Tampa Bay. At tight end, Brait, I'll look to other tight ends. There's a lot of guys we've already talked about here. Rams, I like Stafford. This is a game that should be pretty high scoring, 6.5K. I like him in tournaments. At running back, we did see basically a split now with Henderson and Akers. A typical Sean McVay. He did say he wanted to get Cam Akers a bit more involved. But yeah, 35 snaps there for Henderson, 27 for Akers. Not really looking at either of their price points. At wide receiver, I don't have to tell you about Cooper Kupp being a good play. He's a great play in both formats. High floor, high ceiling. They're just going to pepper the sky with targets. Allen Robinson bounced back. I said I like Allen Robinson to bounce back. He did. He also had another touchdown call back. So 5.7K is a solid option there in the mid-range. Skronok's going to play a ton. He's an okay punt play. I don't expect Van Jefferson to come back. So 3.4K, you could do worse. Tight end, I like Higbee. Higbee was the guy that I wanted to play in cash games last week. A lot of the field went to Albert O, which I thought was a pretty big mistake. Higbee smashed, and not very few people played him in cash. 7 catches on 9 targets. So he's basically playing the entire game and one of the many tight ends in that range that I like. Moving on to Arizona, Kyler Murray. Well, it started off really, really bad, but ended up salvaging it. 7.3K, I think he's a solid GPP play. At running back, keep an eye on James Conner. If he plays, you can look to him in tournaments. He misses. You probably see a split here with Williams and Benjamin. Wide receiver, so Rondale Moore probably not going to be back for this game, which makes Greg Dortch, once again, a pretty solid value, playing out of the slot, playing majority of the game. AJ Green also playing a lot, but he's basically dust at this point in his career. And then Hollywood Brown is their wide receiver, 1 at 11 targets last week, and I think is playable in both formats. At tight end, I like Zach Ertz quite a bit at 4.6. He played a majority of the game, had 11 targets. This is a game projected to be pretty high scoring. He has 73 to 87 snaps there for Zach Ertz. I think he's a good play, again, in both formats. And finally, Atlanta and Seattle. Really, really disgusting game here. Mariota's a fine punt play just because of his rushing upside. Decent matchup here against the Seahawks. At running back, you can always look to Cordarrelle Patterson in tournaments. They did get Tyler Algier involved, and they split, the rushing attempts. Yeah, Patterson, we know the ceiling he provides, so he's a viable GPP play. Wide receiver, outside of Drake London, they basically really spread out the snaps. I'm not looking at anyone besides Drake London, who I do think is viable here. 7 and 12 targets over the first couple weeks, sub 6K price point. And Kyle Pitts, interesting buy low candidate here. He's still running a ton of routes. He's still playing majority of the game, but the production hasn't really been there. But he is sub 5K and going up against the Seahawks. And finally, Seattle. No, I'm not playing Geno Smith. Running back, this is absolutely disgusting. As I mentioned, Travis Homer, 4 catches, 33 yards, had a couple carries as well. Finished with 8 fancy points. But when I play him at 10% ownership on the Showdown slate and he plays like 40% of the snaps, Geno Smith just doesn't look his way. So, but yeah, in the main slate, no. Walker, Penny, Homer, 3-headed monster there. No way. Wide receiver, I mean, Metcalf and Lockett are relatively cheap. They're okay tournament plays. At tight end, I'm not looking at Noah Fant. There's so many other tight end plays we mentioned that are playing like the entire game. So that is the breakdown, guys. That is the team-by-team breakdown. We talked about 26 teams. And yeah, excited for this main slate. Hopefully we see, some of you guys win some big money on Sunday. And again, if you guys do enjoy the content, just make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Keep an eye out for future content. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.